G'day guys, welcome back to True Eagle, and the first video as part of a new series, Classic Eagles. In this series, we're going to take a look at some Eagles footballers of eras past that have helped make our club great. In the first episode, we've got Luke Shuey, my favourite ever West Coast Eagle. Shuey was drafted in 2008 at selection 18, the second Eagle picked that draft behind Nick Natanui. The 08 draft was the second draft in the Eagles rebuild in the wake of the Judd and Cousins departures, and we had just endured one of the worst seasons in our history. Shuey joined a young midfield group of names like Chris Maston, Scott Selwood and Brad Ebert, who were all drafted the season previous, and these players were seen as forming the next generation of Eagles midfielders at the club. Unfortunately, the start to Shuey's career couldn't have been rockier. After getting through his first pre-season at the start of 2009, Shuey received a devastating double blow. The news that he had developed osteitis pubis was followed closely by the tragic death of his younger sister Mel. Football injuries don't compare to the loss of a loved one, and Shuey spent part of his recovery time back home in Melbourne before returning to the club. Unfortunately, the bad injury luck was only just beginning for Luke. In his comeback game for East Perth, his debut in fact, Shuey broke his leg, ruling him out for the rest of the season. The following pre-season, at the start of 2010, Shuey suffered 2 hernias, but still managed to earn a spot in the Eagles round 1 team at the Gabba against the Brisbane Lions. He's a member of the esteemed First Kick, First Goal club, and he finished his debut with 2 goals and 18 possessions. The Eagles were a struggling side, and Shuey appeared to be one of our best young talents, from a small sample size. He followed that up with another 2 goals against the Power in round 2, before a knee injury would sideline him for up to 4 months after his 3rd game. He came back to play the last 3 games of the season, but given the Eagles won the Spoon that year, he would still be winless in his first 6 games at AFL level. But we'd seen enough to be excited. The narrative around the Eagles in 2010 was that they had the worst skills in the league and a one-pace midfield that lacked a punch without a fit Daniel Kerr. Shuey's skill set as a quick, goal-scoring midfielder that had good skills on both feet had everyone excited. We just needed to get him fit. Shuey was already my favourite player by then, but his breakout season in 2011 was unforeseen even to me. In round 2, the Eagles upset the Power as Shuey had 3 goals, 27 possessions and 6 clearances on his way to a Rising Star nomination. Against the Bulldogs a couple of months later, he would have 27 possessions again and help himself to 5 goals. He finished second in the Rising Star that year to Dyson Heppel, and if you ask me, I reckon he was robbed. But maybe don't ask me as I'm extremely biased. Shuey had a brilliant mix of attributes, and it stuck out in a team that lacked those exact traits. His speed and explosive movement off the mark is underrated, as was his dual-sided skills and ability to hit long-range targets at pace. Early in his career, he had a real knack for finding the goals too, kicking 24 goals in 2011 and 19 in 2012, and he kicked another bag of 5 goals early in the season of 2012 against GWS. After his explosive breakout season in 2011, there's no doubt Shuey took some time adjusting to being the tagged midfielder of our team for the next few seasons. Daniel Kerr and Matt Priddis were great midfielders at what they did, but neither were the sorts of players you would typically tag. You'd go for the damaging, more outside, skillful types that hurt the opposition, and Shuey's game suffered as a result of that. His output was still consistently good, but it probably just stabilised for the next handful of seasons, as opposed to him becoming a bona fide elite midfielder of the competition. He remained one of our most important players as the Eagles surged to a grand final in 2015, in a season where he managed to kick 24 goals in addition to his midfield duties. One of those 24 goals was the first goal of the grand final, and I wasn't sitting far away from him as he kicked it. When the ball sailed through and the crowd roared, I knew we were destined to win that grand final. I got that wrong. The next few seasons brought individual achievements for Shuey. In 2016 and 2019, he would be selected in the All-Australian squad and also win the John Worsfold medal both years. But there's 2 amazing Luke Shuey stories sandwiched between those seasons we must address. The first is his match-winning goal against the Power in 2017. Now, like I said, I'm an unashamed Luke Shuey fanboy, and I won't hear a word against him. But if there was one thing I perhaps didn't like about his game, it was the tendency to draw high free kicks. Now don't get me wrong, I don't think it's an absolute sin, but particularly in 2012, I felt like he did it way too much. I do, however, think there is a time and a place to draw high free kicks if possible. One of those times and places is, absolutely, in the dying seconds of an elimination final with the game on the line. Shuey won a late free kick, went back and coolly slotted an after the siren set shot to win an all-time finals classic against the Power. The other story I'm referring to is his 2018 grand final performance. Now at the time, it was rated by Champion Data as the greatest finals performance by a player in a decade. He had 34 possessions, 21 of those kicks, 9 clearances, 8 tackles, 8 inside 50s, and a crucial goal against the play in the second quarter of that game. I remember in the wake of that grand final, I had no idea who'd been best on ground, but I remember still waiting with bated breath for the announcement, hoping it would be Luke Shuey. Him winning the Norm Smith medal that day is something I will cherish forever. Shuey was awarded the captaincy ahead of the 2020 season when Shannon Hurn stepped down, again something I was thrilled to see. Unfortunately for Luke, his time as captain coincides with just about the worst period of performances this club has ever seen, and for factors completely out of his control. Not only did the team slip out of relevance quite badly, his own injury luck took a turn for the worse. Since taking over the captaincy, Shuey only managed 47 out of a possible 85 games, with a number of those games including games where he was subbed out. He battled soft tissue injuries repeatedly, but I will forever admire his resilience and desire to get back and play for this team. Even until his final game, Shuey busted a gut for this football club, and even produced some eye-catching highlights along the way. Between his first 3 and his last 3 seasons though, Shuey had actually been a pretty durable player, and finished with a game tally of 248 games. Where does Luke Shuey fit in terms of our all-time greatest team? Well, given the insane midfield talent this club has produced in its history, he might not make the team, but I reckon he's been our best midfielder since the glory days of Cuz, Judd and Kerr. Luke is currently assistant coach at the Eagles overseeing stoppages, a role he undertook after retiring. We do know he has a son, so I don't know about you guys, but I have my fingers crossed that he's good at footy. Who knows, Luke may not be the last Shuey to be my favourite AFL player.